Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning if you're on the West Coast. My name is McKay Allen, and I am in the marketing department here at Log My Calls. And we're excited for today's webinar. We've got a great presenter who's got a great topic, and we're very excited you've joined us today. This will be our last webinar before Christmas. We'll begin again in January. So stay tuned for more emails from us about the webinar series beginning in January. We've got some great presenters, some marketing experts who I really feel like are going to be valuable assets to giving you more information in terms of improving your marketing and your overall revenue. So today's presenter, we're very excited to have Jesse Wroblewski, who is the founder of Generations Beyond, and they're a digital marketing firm in Long Island, New York. Started out as really a web design firm and grew out from there. Jesse can talk more about that in a moment, but we're very excited to have Jesse. He sent me the title of this webinar a couple of weeks ago, What Batman Has Taught Me About Being a Master Marketer. And then when he sent me the slides and the design on the slides alone, I was like, this will be good. So we're excited to have Jesse. We're very excited he's joining us today. You can view Jesse's webinar following this webinar, as well as all of our other webinars, on logmycalls.com. Just on the home page there, click on the link that says webinars, and you can see the whole library of them, the slides, the videos, everything. So Jesse's webinar will be up there shortly. So with that, I do want to just go over a couple ground rules today. If you have questions, and we encourage you to ask questions during today's webinar, please just type those in the question pane on your GoToWebinar screen there, and then at the end I'll read those questions to Jesse. The other thing I want to make you aware of is our holiday special here at Log My Calls. If you sign up during the month of December for any Log My Calls package, you get 2 free months of the service, regardless of the features you have and choose. So it's a great deal, and we hope you take us up on it. So with that, I want to turn the time over to Jesse, and thank you again for presenting today, Jesse, and with that, we'll turn it over to him.
Thanks, McKay, and thanks for having me. Hello to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I hope we have at least some Batman fans in the audience, but even if you're not a Batman fan, he's so popular and so superfluous with pop culture. There's certain identifying factors with Batman that pretty much everyone under the sun can relate to and identify. So like McKay said, I kind of sent him this title for this seminar a few weeks ago and kind of backed my way into it, not really having a full grasp on all the lessons I wanted to get across, but as I delved deeper, it was so obvious, as I got into Batman's background and what he really stands for, how these all translate into marketing and what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I'll get into that a little bit. Give you a little background on who I am and what I do and why you should be here listening to me today. Obviously, I'm a big nerd. I can't stress that enough. Huge Batman fan, love comic books. We have an incredibly creative workspace environment located in Long Island. We were actually featured on CNN, filled with toys, comic books, arcade games. We have a lot of fun. And that company is known as Generations Beyond. And as McKay said, started about 14 years ago, strictly doing website design. And back 14 years ago, we would launch a website for a company, and they'd pop the champagne, and they'd all wipe their brow because they wouldn't have to think or look at their website for another 5 to 10 years. And as time went on, that span of 5 to 10 years got shorter and shorter and shorter until today, where we launch a website and the very next day we're talking about how to optimize for mobile and how to get emails delivered to cell phones and Facebook marketing, and it's just become something that you can literally spend all day, every day on in trying to develop your brand online. And that's some of the stuff we do for our clients on a regular basis here at Generations Beyond. But there is one more characteristic, kind of a feather in my cap, that I wanted to throw at you guys. I'm the creator of a little side project called Puppet Terrors. I started Puppet Terrors about 10 years ago, and the reason I bring this up is, number one, to really drive home the fact that I am a big nerd. I can't make that clear enough. But number two, I kind of took this brand. Basically, what it is an independent line of toys and comic books And I kind of developed this brand into a national brand that got distributed worldwide 10 years ago online with a shoestring budget. This was before MySpace and before YouTube and all these great tools such as Constant Contact existed, and kind of really cut my teeth in kind of a live or die type of environment. Being an independent artist, I funded the project myself on my credit cards. So in addition to being on the other end of the desk, I also have the experience of being, kind of a client, someone who's used all these tools, put my own money up, and kind of that live or die scenario where if it didn't work, I was in a lot of trouble. So I kind of really put my best foot forward, really got a trial by fire, and learned exactly what to expect, what it takes to motivate someone to actually do something online, whether it be share your information on Facebook, click that buy now button. A lot of people come to the table and they think the world is going to be interested in everything they have to say, and they're very quick to realize that once they hop online, they hop on Facebook and ask people to like their page. It takes a little bit of arm twisting to actually get some things to happen. So I kind of share that with you as kind of a little feather in my cap, in addition to being on the other end of the desk as a digital marketer. So let's get right into it. The first lesson that I would like to parlay into what Batman does. For anyone that doesn't know, which I would find hard to believe, Batman is the protector of Gotham City. He spends a lot of time fighting crime and keeping the streets safe for the citizens. But Batman, even though he doesn't have a lot of free time, he spends a tremendous amount of time on his branding. I'll give you a few examples. We have Exhibit A, the bat signal. Whenever the city of Gotham needs Batman's help, they have this gigantic spotlight that they shine up in the sky, and it's simply the Batman's logo. And that kind of signals him to let him know that he is needed. Exhibit B is the Batmobile. Again, very unique, very branded vehicle, easy to spot from a mile away. And it goes right down all the way through everything Batman does to his finest little Batman tools and his weaponry. I'd give you Exhibit C, the Batarang, which Batman uses to take criminals off guard. So you ask yourself, Batman is so busy, why does he waste so much time on putting together a clear and consistent branding effort? Well, similar to many of our businesses, our branding elicits a response from the general populace. In this case, Batman puts all this emphasis on his branding in order to elicit the sense of fear or dread amongst the bad guys. So I have a little comic book panel here. Just a simple little Batarang crashing through the window. Everyone kind of knows exactly what it means and exactly what they have to do, which is usually, if you're a bad guy, get the hell out of town in a flash. So Batman uses the existence of branding to, even though he can't be everywhere at once, kind of help the spirit of Batman along and let people know that he's either around or he is watching. So we take these examples and we try to apply them to our own companies. So while many of us may not have the luxury of having a bat signal that we can flash up on the skies high above our cities, let's do a quick example and imagine if you could. If your logo was flying high above your city, what would your clients and potential clients think? Is it in line with your vision statement? Now, probably you don't want to elicit fear in your clients, but you do want them to feel something when they notice your brand. You want to make them feel trustworthy. Whatever it is you do, there's certainly something that you want your clients to feel when they see your branding. Now, this might not be as effective for Batman if he changed his logo every few months, if he had a Constant Contact account and he used different fonts on his Constant Contact account than he did on his Bat website, if his Batmobile was blue instead of black. All these inconsistencies play both a conscious and subconscious role on everyone's marketing efforts. So keep that in mind. Would your existing or potential clientele even recognize your branding? If not, it might be something you want to investigate in the near future. So let's take a moment and think about what your most effective branding opportunity is. And there's plenty of them out there, from absolutely free all the way up to the highest big budget marketing campaigns. You have your email blast. It could be something as your email signature. Do you have your logo in your email signature currently? There may be an opportunity that you can have to consistently enforce your branding efforts. Facebook updates. A lot of clients, they come to us and they expect that once they get on social media, particularly with a small budget, that they're going to start sharing items and sharing information, and people are going to be breaking down their doors and all these new leads are going to be coming in. That's usually not the case, but what I do liken it to is every time you do that little Facebook update, if you do have that clear and consistent brand, it's almost like having that bat signal, even for a split second, just to pop up on everyone's radar once a day, once a week, where they see your update, but more importantly, they see that brand, they see that logo, they see your colors, they see your font, and while they may not need you immediately, they may have not needed you yesterday, they may need you in the future, and that constant, the constant flashing of your logo and your branding in their face is definitely something that has sometimes an unperceived value, but is very important. So consider that for all you social media people out there. I know it can be slow going and tough, particularly with a small budget. I have a lot of problem coming up with unique content on a regular basis. I'm one of them. But remember, there's also ulterior benefits to including yourself in social media. I just threw something else in here, your invoices. Your invoices is another opportunity where you may not be advertising because if chances are, if you're sending an invoice, that person is already your client. That's another opportunity where your branding can continue to take hold. Your logo, your fonts, your coloring can really drive home your branding efforts. And then we have the obvious TV and radio ads as well as billboards. So take a step back and think about what you're doing today with your business. Constant contact, your social media, your emails that you send every day, how you answer the phone, your signage on your building. Make sure they all have a clear and consistent brand, so all that effort that you're putting into getting your name out there kind of has that extra 1-2 punch coming with it. And then I put a little burst. Remember, the citizens are watching. Be clear and consistent with your branding. So, in addition to branding, another thing that pretty much everyone under the sun knows Batman is known for is his utility belt. Batman has a belt that he wears around his waist, and with the amount of foresight that he seems to have, has a tool for pretty much any situation, all the way down to bat shark repellent, bat spray. For any of the fans of the 1960s Batman television series, it's become kind of an internet meme with its campiness. But just an example of building a toolbox of more than one tool to kind of get you out of any situation. Any good marketer knows that you're going to need a lot of tools used in tandem with each other to get any kind of effect on a marketing campaign. So what I see a lot of marketers falling into is the trap of having an allegiance to what I call a one-tool wonder. A lot of people are quick to hire the social media guru or the search engine optimization guy. Typically, I'm not bad-mouthing SEO guys or social media gurus. They certainly do their job in the fact that they usually drive traffic, which is a huge component of a marketing campaign. The social media guru also drives traffic. It's also very helpful in getting that branding effort across. But as you'll see in our next lesson, traffic is really just one part of your marketing campaign. A successful marketing campaign requires the combination of multiple efforts. So, what tools are in your marketing utility belt? Can they be combined with each other for a more explosive effect, or used in succession for a powerful 1-2 punch? And I just put together a very quick list here. Search engine optimization, again, a very powerful tool. Social media marketing, SMM. SEM, search engine marketing or pay-per-click marketing. Other paid channels such as banner ads, remarketing, killer design, killer copy. Let's not forget about all the web designers and copywriting girls out there. An essential sidekick to any marketing campaign. Market-specific landing pages, non-digital tactics such as print advertising, also log my calls, another powerful tool that can fall in line with your marketing utility belt. There's a very famous scene in Batman The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger as the Joker, where Heath Ledger piles the criminals on top of an actual pile of money, and he lights the money on fire and the criminals with it. And it's kind of a very vivid scene, but it's also kind of synonymous with the people that have the allegiance to the one-tool wonders, just the SEO guy or just the social media guru, thinking that just that initial spark of traffic, that initial spark on your website is going to deliver this tremendous windfall of potential leads, and it's not usually the case. And this will all come full circle in our next lesson, which is reading analytics like a crime scene. This is where we get a little more scientific. I'm going to go a little bit deeper with how to actually maybe convert your leads and increase your return on investment with your digital marketing. So we need to utilize and figure out the mindset of your visitors before, during, and after they visit your site. In this section, we're going to try to detect where your marketing breakdown occurs. Marketing breakdowns are actually killing your conversions. So what is a marketing breakdown? I personally describe a marketing breakdown as when a prospective customer goes through a series of minute actions from the point he or she initially realizes they want to buy, whether they have a specific need for the product or service, or they are actively searching for it, or they have passively been marketed to, such as at an end-cap store display or via a television ad. From this point on, that buyer goes through a series of actions and reactions until ultimately the sale is made or lost. It is at these critical points where a marketing breakdown can occur. So you have a potential client on the hook, so to speak, and they go through a series of points where we can actually lose them. If you think of this as Batman in a street fight with a potential mugger, Batman has a certain flow, a fight choreography, if you will. If he wants a criminal to kind of back off, he might fake with a punch or lean forward and cause the criminal to back off. From there, he probably has the foresight to have another move in check where the motion of the criminal backing off kind of feeds into that next power of that next move. So we're going to kind of keep that metaphor of a flow. Okay, we're going to try and figure out what that client's thinking as they go through the sales process, what their pullbacks might be, what their reservations might be, and what's going to drive them ultimately to make your conversion. So to better illustrate this, I put together a typical sales process illustration. In step one, we have a lead is born. A lead is born, it could be anything. You could have met them at a networking event and shake their hand and they realize that they have a need for your product or service. They could have just woke up in the middle of the night and realized they needed your product and service, and they have a thought. And then the next step is they usually sit down at the computer on the digital side and they type into Google. We categorize that as keyword search. From there, Google provides them with any series of results, whether it be organic search results or pay-per-click advertising. From there, after the person is convinced and they read the ad and they click on it, they're brought to your website. And then they enter into your entire website sales process, going down to the second line, depending on how many clicks they have to go through, and ultimately to get to the conversion. Now, if you look at these white arrows in this diagram, each one of these white arrows is a place where a marketing breakdown can occur. So let me give you an example. Let's say in the very first stage between a lead is born and keyword search, let's say that person comes up with keywords to define your product or service that you've never even thought of. And they're sitting down at Google and they're typing in those keywords, and guess what? Your website's not going to come up because you never thought to put those keywords into your metadata. So that's kind of one of the first preliminary breakdowns where a marketing breakdown is going to occur. They're actually going to get driven to your competitor site. That's kind of an example of where we want to get into the mind of your potential client before they actually even get to your website. They're thinking about your project, and that's where keyword analysis comes in. You can kind of have a brainstorm and figure out how clients would describe your product. You can do a survey of your existing clients and just get them on the phone and ask them, please describe my my products or services to me. And you may want to record it using Log My Calls and just kind of go through and re-listen to them with a fresh mind and kind of pick up on the keywords. There may be some keywords there that you never expected, which can kind of cut down on the potential marketing breakdown in that little arrow between step 1 and step 2. Now, between step 2 and step 3, keyword search and organic or paid results, other breakdowns can occur. For example, if you're typing in how to fight crime and Google serves up your keyword-rich pay-per-click ad, a number of things could happen here. The worst thing that could happen, or the second to worst thing actually, is that you have a poorly written ad. Your ad doesn't really describe what your product or service does, and your potential lead simply scans past it and goes to the next potential ad. That one's fairly obvious. The other thing, which I think is worse that could happen, is your ad is too well written. Your ad promises the world and it doesn't deliver. So your potential ad promises things that your website doesn't clearly or concisely explain, or your product simply doesn't deliver. So what happens then is the person clicks on your ad, gets to your website, and then eventually leaves. The reason this is so bad is because you just paid for a very poor lead. So when you're thinking about creating your pay-per-click ads, you definitely want to consider the give and take, the delicate balance, where a poorly written ad or may have a very bad click-through ratio, but a very well-written ad or too well-written ad that promises too much is going to have a very high click-through ratio, but a very poor conversion rate. So don't get hung up on looking at your analytics without going too deep. Everyone wants a low bounce rate. Everyone wants a lot of traffic, but ultimately it all comes down to the quality of lead and conversions. So between keyword search and ad or organic results, that is another potential opportunity of where a potential marketing breakdown can occur. And then from here, they enter your website sales process. And this is incredibly important and incredibly diverse depending on everyone's website and everyone's products and services. You can see once they enter your home page, each click has the possibility of a marketing breakdown. And if you go from the very beginning all the way through to an average 2 or 3 click to conversion rate, we're looking at 7 possibilities of a marketing breakdown. So obviously, as marketers, we want to cut down the amount of actions and reactions needed from a client in order to get to a finalized conversion. So you may want to employ certain tactics such as market-specific landing pages. If you're a bookstore selling a entire library of books, and you're taking out pay-per-click ads on how to fight crime, you may just want to bring that ad to a market-specific landing page about your crime-fighting section. That way, the user doesn't have to click once, twice, 3 times in order to make that sale. Market-specific landing pages are also tremendous opportunities, again, for inserting Log My Calls tracking numbers. And that way you can also increase your ability to track what your clients are doing once they get to your site, as well as what they do after they leave. Pardon me, I'm just running through my final notes here. Okay, and the last thing that I'll touch upon is actual website design. Obviously, the most variables in this diagram happens once they enter the website sales process. So you want to make your website design as easy to follow and as conversion friendly as possible, let's say. So I have a little example here. It's a very small example, but I just want to kind of reinforce that flow again, going back to the flow of your sales procedure. Let's say it's the middle of the night, and a person ends up on your website, and they see your big call to action, your phone number, and it says call now. Market researchers have noticed a sizable incoming call volume simply by putting the phrase 24 hours a day. So again, if it's the middle of the night and they happen on your website, and even though it says call now and follows your phone number, they may think it's the middle of the night and put it off till tomorrow, and we all know how that goes. Eventually it filters down into a lost lead. By simply putting the words 24 hours a day after the phone number, it increases the amount of call volume. Now, this is both a visual, but also it kind of gets into the realm of psychological warfare, where we're eliminating on a psychological subconscious level any reason for a potential client to talk themselves out of a sale. Well, it's late, I don't know if they're open, I'll get back to them later. If you have the ability to take calls 24 hours a day, mention it. And kind of look at each step, each call to action that you have on your website. How can you stop a client from either consciously or subconsciously talking themselves out of converting into a potential client? How many of us have been online at the checkout counter, at the supermarket or the store, and in that time, maybe 2 to 3 minutes while you're waiting, you're looking at the stuff on the cart in the cart that you thought was a great idea, and all of a sudden you start putting things away as you're waiting to get to checkout. You're talking yourselves out of a sale. It's human nature. It's natural. So we as marketers have to both cut down on that wait time, cut down on the amount of steps we expect our clients to go through in order to get the product or information that they need, and eliminate on a subconscious level any ability for them to talk themselves out of becoming your client. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed what Batman taught me about being a marketing superhero. I'd like to thank Log My Calls for having me today, and I hope there are plenty of excellent questions I'll be happy to answer for you from this point.
Thank you, Jesse. We appreciate that. Yeah, there are a couple of good questions, and the first are a couple of compliments, complimenting you on the webinar and doing a great job, so we appreciate that. Why don't you tell us real quick, Jesse, and this is a common question we get, and maybe you've heard this as well, what are the biggest areas of improvement that you see most? I mean, today you talked a lot about branding. Where do you see the most branding inconsistencies? Is there a medium or even an industry where you see big inconsistencies in branding?
Well, not to point any fingers, but I just, the number one thing that came into my head when you said that, it's constant contact. Constant contact is a great tool, and the reason it's so popular is because they cater to the end user. The end user thinks it's phenomenal if they can put together an email that's not just plain text. They have the ability to add color and fonts and pictures, and while it's a great tool, we're all not designers, and we all don't have that keen eye that picks up on branding inconsistencies. But I kind of joke about it in my sales calls, how constant contact, you can kind of spot them from a mile away. The second you get it, you go, oh, this is a constant contact email. So I think that's while it's a very powerful tool, it's certainly helpful to send out more eye-catching marketing collateral via email. I think the ability to give into the end user, and it's not the end user's fault. We're not all artists or marketers. Keep an eye on that when you're creating your constant contact emails, or any constant contact is the biggest. There's MailChimp and all these other companies that use constant contact as the example. But try and keep an eye on that. If you do work with a graphic designer or a web designer, they can provide you with set standard logos in certain sizes that conform to your constant contact marketing. And it's okay to kind of follow a similar template and just repopulate your content each send out. A lot of people, given the tools, they kind of rebrand their email marketing every time. They want to put different pictures, and they use different templates, and they use different fonts because they can. And it's not usually it's not always a helpful thing to be so out there on the design end.
That's good advice. That's great advice. So the other questions that we have, first is, how do you determine the value of a branding-centric campaign? Because, obviously in this hyper-analytics marketing world we live in now, everything needs to have a quantifiable value, everything needs to be measured, but there still is some sort of intrinsic inherent value in branding. Give us some tips, if you will, of how you maybe measure the effectiveness of branding by and large.
Ooh, tough question. Very tough question. Yeah, it's definitely difficult to put a quantifiable return on investment. I actually work with a consultant who's been very influential in helping me build my business, and he was the president of Konica Minolta. And at the beginning of the year, when they did their ad campaign, they put billboards in every major league baseball stadium. And it just so happened that the year Mark McGwire hit his record-breaking home run, he was the America's darling. Everybody tuned in and watched it over and over and over. He happened to hit that home run right over the Konica Minolta billboard. And one of his regular stories is that he can't put a single dollar return on investment, into that marketing campaign, even though probably most of America watched that over and over and had that branding in their face time and time again. A lot of people probably would have killed for that type of exposure. So it's difficult to come down to quantifiable return on investments. However, on the other end of the spectrum, if you put up the initial investment to work with a designer or a branding company to get that initial branding in place, it's really not that cost prohibitive to make sure that branding is consistent. Again, getting back to the Facebook and the constant contact, just to make sure you have that brand. Most branding companies will give you a branding guideline. These are the fonts we use. This is the logo we use when we do black and white. This is the logo we use when we do color. This is how a logo is presented on the web. So with a little bit of extra timing and forethought, it really doesn't take a tremendous amount of effort or investment, aside from the initial investment, to maintain that clear and consistent branding effort. And once you get into it and you get good at it, you start to realize, like my example with the invoices, you start to realize where you can kind of just increase that branding, that branding existence, and kind of get more bang for your buck. So it is kind of a mindset. Definitely has have a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get past that curve, which really isn't that bad, you just start to realize all these other opportunities where, usually free opportunities where you can increase your brand and increase your awareness among your clientele.
We got a couple of social media questions as well. Do you have any guidance for us on social media metrics? What types of things should you be measuring to determine if your social media efforts are successful or not? And I'm sure that depends whether you're in a B2C versus B2B environment or what industries, but give us some general guidelines if you can.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's still kind of emerging. Google Analytics is kind of my go-to analytical software. I have played around with a bunch of other stuff. You have Facebook Insights and stuff like that. Google still hasn't really nailed down and made it kind of idiot-proof for even guys like me to kind of correlate social media with ultimate lead generation and traffic generation to a website. So again, that's a very good question. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, within the next 6 months, that's going to be really buttoned up and really clear and cohesive to everybody. But right now, I don't have a go-to tool in my utility belt, so to speak, that aside from what Facebook presents you on their Insights page, what Twitter presents to you, and what little information Google currently provides with their Google Analytics. But I'm willing to bet within the next few months there's going to be a very powerful tool emerging, if there isn't one already that hasn't gotten onto my radar, to kind of help quantify social media efforts.
That's good. And then the final question, unless we have some more, please type them in. We still have a few minutes, so if you've got more, ask them. But for now, the final question, Jesse, it comes from Jim. He says, you know, there's a lot of resistance to, basically his question is, everybody thinks they're a designer. Everybody thinks they can do design. Any comment on that just generally as someone who can actually do design? Any comment on everyone thinking they can design a page effectively, or even a logo, or an email campaign, or whatever? Talk about that a little if you can.
Absolutely. I mean, especially nowadays when your potential clientele at the click of a button can be presented with a dozen of your competitors. Image is increasingly important, especially on the web. And there's all the build your own website tools out there, and that's certainly fine if you're on a tight budget. But getting back to simple things like I gave the example of adding call now 24 hours a day along with your telephone number. Once the design is in place, you'd be shocked at how analytical and how scientific you can get with tweaking your actual design. So while it may be a major milestone to get something up that actually looks good for someone who thinks they're a designer or isn't a designer but is trying to design something, that certainly is a major milestone, getting something presentable up there. But once it's up there, getting back to the search engine optimization guy and the social media guru, we're going to be sending all this new traffic to this newly designed web page. And that newly designed web page very rarely hits it out of the park on the first run. So you may have spent X amount of hours on designing this page that you're sending all this traffic to, and you may be very proud of it, but it's going to take someone with a little bit of skill to kind of, not intrusively bump up the presence of that phone number through subtle use of things like contrast and colors, highlighting these certain areas on the page where you want the eye to flow when they first get to the site. So these are things that your competition may be doing. You may throw stuff on a web page, you may throw everything you have to offer. It looks phenomenal, but when a person gets to your website, their eye goes everywhere. Whereas your competitor who hired a professional designer knows how to kind of bring the eye, again, going back to that sales flow, getting the eye to flow to exactly where you want it to go, and ultimately end up at that call to action, and ultimately become a paying customer. So, design is one thing, making things look good. It's definitely a positive, and there's certainly a ton of tools out there that help you do it. But getting past that, keeping up with your competition, hiring a designer that actually understands color theory and contrast and marketing flow, particularly if your competitors are doing it, it's just something you're up against. You may not want to go at it